We'll wait for a couple of minutes, sir, and then we'll start, sir, so that a few more participants can join.
Yeah, no problem.
So meanwhile, sir, while others join, and to save time, sir, normally how we structure is that, again, it is fluid and upon you, sir, that we keep it initial part 40-45 minutes for the speaker for his delivery, and next we open 10 minutes for the Q&A. Again, so that keeping a mind of only 60 minutes, we can try to close in that, because we also appreciate all of the time and the pressure of our seniors also. And till now, we have been able to maintain this discipline, sir. So,
Okay.
Thanks.
So there is some pressure on me now.
no, sir.
No issues. Yeah, I get it. Thanks for letting me know.
You will appreciate that, we ask people how to make an elevator pitch. So,
Got it.
Our Dr. Person sir has joined. So on behalf of the house and on behalf of the faculty, I'd like to welcome our Dr. Person sir, Shri KK Singh Saab, under whose guidance, and not just this intervention, but a lot of innovative interventions have been taken up by L&D. In fact, we have been rechristened as HR L&D now, and we are not HRD in the traditional sense of the word. Emphasis being on learning and development, and emphasis being on learning and development driven by the individual and facilitated and supported by the organization. And it is in this context of creating a learning culture that we are having this session on Antardrishti. So to get it started, I'll request Rajesh to set the context, and then we'll invite DB Saab to give his opening remarks before we request Pattabhi Raman Saab for the session. Rajesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And I formally welcome all my seniors and Director Personnel, sir, and our faculty for today, Pattabhi Raman, sir. And I'm delighted to welcome you for this session of Antardrishti, which has been our esteemed series for the insightful interactions with the thought leaders. Today, sir, again, we'll continue with this journey with the 10th session, focusing on impactful business communication and storytelling for the senior leader. Now, I'll start this with a small quote, sir. Very old quote by the Greek philosopher Plato, more than 2,400 years old quote, that those who tell the stories rule the society. And this quote is very much apt now also in terms of ruling the corporate domain. But why do the leaders, or why we have planned this session for us to have an impetus or knowledge of that? Why do leaders need to tell the stories? Leaders tell the stories because they have the power to connect emotionally. It also helps in projecting the image in the minds of the listeners, and very importantly, to deliver the ideas more effectively. That is precisely the reason why the leaders choose to communicate through stories. Now, especially if you talk about our organization, we are going in, like Sanjay sir also mentioned, transformation in HR, transformation in safety domain, transformation in digital domain, and communication for the leaders for how to transform further. Stories are a very impactful medium for that. And this session is another excellent opportunity for us, for any aspiring leader to be effective leader in their domain, to learn to how to enhance their communication skills through storytelling. Now let me welcome Shri KK Singh sir, Director Personnel Sales, for gracing us with his insightful opening remarks, sir. Sir, we are honored to have with you, sir. Sir, please.
So, Namaskar.
Namaskar, sir.
I'm so, in fact, thankful that you invited, and I'm able to attend. Many good sessions keep on happening on Antardrishti, and somehow I miss it. And when I see the topic, it is wonderful topics. So I think I'm attending the second one, or maybe the third one, or maybe the second one only. So first of all, let me thank Pattavi Raman ji that he agreed to be part of this, and he will be taking this session. And this learning is a continuous process, and there is no end. And the main thing is, are we able to apply it? There are so many good things which we learn, but how to apply it, that is the main thing. And if you don't apply it, we lose it. And again somebody tells, then we feel that it was so simple, I could have applied it. And again, the power of compounding, if you keep on doing it, those small bits, and for 2-3 years if you do, then you see the powerful result of that. And when you miss it, then you see, yes, I miss it, and now I think it is too late to start. It is just like the power of compounding is there everywhere. And then you feel maybe this is not the right time, I should have done it that time, and even now is the right time. 5 years from hence, you'll think that again I have missed it. So because of that, we keep having these sessions of Antardrishti, and whenever it strikes us and whenever we want to implement it, that is the right time for it. This human resources, they are the most complex resource, most unpredictable, and how much is the potential, nobody knows. Because many a times I think these Olympics are done only to show that a person like you, having only those 2 hands and legs, he can achieve anything. So your potential is unlimited, maybe you have not tapped. So similar is the case with each and every individual. He can be trained to ultimate potential, and you can have that competitive advantage if you have such kind of people. So my request will be with all my senior leaders who are going through this, and the topic which has been taken, that is storytelling topic. It's a very, very apt topic, because it strikes a chord with your emotion. And if emotion is not there, you are going to forget everything. The things where the amount of emotion which is involved, only those things you remember. And because you keep on repeating it, whenever that kind of emotion will come, you will remember those things, and it keeps on refreshing, so you remember those things. So it's most impactful the moment in a session you start, when I went to this place, everybody is attentive that what he's going to tell. And if you start with all those, there are 5 types of this, one is like this, 2 is like this, the other day you forget everything. So because of that, this storytelling is such a powerful, it was there, it is only being presented like that. It was known since ages that that's the way you make somebody understand the things. And our in fact the epic of our mythology, that is Gita, that's also set in a form of a story, and because of that it strikes, and it's eternal. So not taking much time, let me also get the benefit of presence of Pattavi Raman sir, and we can start the session.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your insights and perspective, which I'm sure will be invaluable to us and help us in framing the discussion. And as you rightly said, sir, stories have the power to shape our perception and drive the change. For us, now we hear the story. For sharing the story, we have the speaker today, Mr. Pattavi Raman, sir. Allow me to please introduce, sir. Mr. Pattavi Raman, MP, is a seasoned professional, having 20 plus years of experience, extensive experience in area of HR and leadership development. And his illustrious careers includes notable roles such as head of HR in 2 McKinsey Group companies. Sir is presently a founder and CEO of Pat for Leaders, where he brings a wealth of expertise coming from the various diverse, and he has a diverse experience from various sectors like IT, ITS, banking, credit research, and consulting organization. Sir has transitioned from full-time employment in 2021, and for the past 3 years, he is deeply immersed in HR consulting, conducting leadership workshop, and providing the leadership coaching. In terms of credentials in certifications, sir is a global trainer for leadership programs, a Gallup Strength coach, and also a Herman whole brain thinker. Sir, we welcome you today, and we hand over the stage to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Rajesh. Good evening, everyone, and I'm thankful to Mr. KK Singh sir for that lovely intro, to Sanjay sir for bringing me in, and for Mr. Rajesh for taking care of all the coordination with respect to the event. So thanks for having me here. So before I get started, there is a very deep personal connection that I have with SAIL. I did work with a few organizations by this time, but my first organization where I formally stepped in to see how a company will look like happens to be SAIL. I belong to this place called Salem. It's a small town near to Bangalore, where we have a steel plant, SAIL plant there. And we have grown up watching SAIL, experiencing SAIL, and they were very benevolent. When we were in college and I was doing my engineering, they were one of the few companies that would allow us to come inside the plant, observe what's happening, and they dedicate so much time in helping us understand how the operations happen. So it's been, 28 years since I stepped into the SAIL plant then. So it brings me such fond memories, and it looks like a homecoming for me. So thanks for having me here, and look forward to a lot of interactions with you all today. Right? So with that, I'll get started. So we're going to start this session with a small video. There are two parts to this session. The second part is about the storytelling, how we do it. Now, there are a few basic ingredients before we get into storytelling. So we will cover through that before we get into the storytelling. So we will start with this video, and let's see what happens here.
And in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, what this organization really needs is a one-on-one approach.
Easily erasable. Camlin whiteboard markers.
Actually, what this organization really needs is repositioning. That means that
Easily erasable. Camlin whiteboard markers.
what this organization desperately needs is change.
Easily erasable. Camlin whiteboard markers.
Okay, I'm sure that many of us would have seen this ad, right? So what does it tell you about the communication here? Are there any insights that this video tells us? Of course, Mr. Rajesh said we are going to have a 10-15 minutes Q&A to the end. We can also take up questions through the slides, each slide, right? If you have any questions, just let me know. That's perfectly fine, right? So any thoughts from anyone? What gets covered in this video? What does the video tell us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, sir, I am from Bhilai, sir.
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Actually, what in the first information, what we are getting, that is one-on-one approach, repositioning and change. Actually, what he was that the leader was writing on the blackboard. The meaning was that convey what he actually wants to convey is not actually conveyed.
Absolutely. Yes. Spot on, sir. You brought it so well, right? In fact, there was a study that was done by EY. like what Sir is mentioning, right? This covered one critical aspect in any organization, which is organizational strategy. And they want to understand how are organizations implementing strategy? Because strategy brings in business impact. Now they covered 17,000 people in almost 26 industries. And then they covered some 450 people who are senior leaders like CXOs, CEOs, CTOs, all to understand how are organizations implementing strategy. Now the results were very bad. Then what they found out is only 10% organizations are successful in implementing strategy. And can you guess what was the number one reason behind those 90% organizations that could not implement strategy? Any guesses?
Communication wasn't effective.
Yes, absolutely spot on. In fact, what they found out is 90% of the business they failed to meet the strategic targets, and 95% of the employees in those 90% organizations do not even get communicated or don't even know what a strategy is. So now this is to bring a context why communication is such a critical, strategic, and a most business relevant topic, right? It is just not a soft skill. This is at play for organizations to meet their strategic objectives, strategic goals. And that's how critical is this topic. So having this topic is very wide. So we have 40 minutes here. We'll try to cover some of the critical aspects of communication here. So let's start with this. What do you think is an impactful communication according to you? What needs to be there for us to say a certain communication is impactful? Any thoughts?
Clarity.
Clarity, fantastic. Clear clarity, and also communicating things well, beautiful. Anything else you think need to go along with that?
Assuming at the end of the dialogue or end of the communication, both are in the same page, then it is a communication.
Absolutely. Both are on the same page, and it needs to make someone feel good about the communication. That's the most important thing, right? Even if you are communicating a certain bad news, right? Still, there should be a feel-good factor. Yes, madam, you're saying something. Please go ahead.
I was saying authenticity.
Beautiful, brilliant. How authentic, how honest I am in my communication. Fantastic. Let's see what it is, right? There is something called as a pity pot syndrome, right? Have you heard about this? What is this? This is the foundation for the communication to come out impactful. Take a guess, right? We are all learning, right? Feel free to go wrong with your response. So what would a pity pot syndrome mean? Any guesses? In certain cases, it's called pity city. In certain cases, it's called a pity pot. So what this means is the foundation for our communication is our attitude. What attitude do we bring? Whether we are communicating over an email, in person, in meeting, doesn't matter. The attitude is everything. So what this syndrome talks about is there could be certain communication where we may feel helpless. We may be unhappy with certain things that's happening to us, right? Or let's say we think that this is a problem that someone else is creating. I am communicating for that problem. So there could be multiple scenarios, but in each of the scenarios, it doesn't matter what has happened behind that problem, who is responsible. If I want to be an impactful communicator, I need to take control of the situation. I need to own the situation. And this is where, even if there is something that someone else should have done, which I am left to communicate, doesn't matter. Can I take empowerment to myself? Can I be positive? And the reason why this is important is 93% of our communication is non-verbal, which means the words constitute only 7%. So the 93% includes visual, which is 55%, and vocal is 38%. So example of visual communication is the body language, how we look when we communicate. Let's say if you are not so very positive, you might look unhappy, right? Similarly, our voice modulation could also be very weak if you're not very optimistic, very positive, right? It might sound negative. Now, the most important thing is this 93% communication We can't fake it. This is behavioral. And that is where, even if we use different words, I might be unhappy inside, but I'll try to tell myself, let me use a positive word in my verbal communication. Even if we do it, given that 93% of our communication is non-verbal, getting communicated through our body language or vocal, it is very, very important that we come out as someone who has the positive attitude, a constructive attitude, an optimistic attitude when we do any communication. This is the foundation, foundational aspect, a very critical foundation for an impactful communication. Let me take a pause here. Are there any questions, thoughts from anyone? Any comments?
Maybe we can take the questions at the last. If
Okay, sure, no problem, no problem. Yeah,
thank you, sir.
no problem. Yeah, thanks. So let's move on to the next thing, right? Your intent is a North Star. So we started with attitude. So what do you think is the intent here? What is the meaning of an intent according to you? Any examples, any thoughts? So let me give an example, right? Let's say we are getting to a team meeting, or let's say we are getting into a leadership presentation. Now, the leadership presentation could be, let's say, on a project that we are taking up, and it's a status update on a project. Now, the project, let's say, is a very challenging project, right? And I'm now required to make some presentation to give a status update, especially if this project has not been progressing very well. Now I'm there before my leadership group, wanting to make a presentation. Now an example of intent is, one way how I can approach this is, okay, this is a challenging project. Whatever I say, whatever I communicate, nothing is going to change for me, change for the project. So that is one way of approaching the presentation. That is also one example of an intent. The second example of an intent is, even if the project is not progressing well, can I use this leadership presentation as an opportunity to gain more insights from my seniors, from my other leaders, so that I can take back some of the learnings and see how I can improve the project? That's the second way how I can approach. It's the same situation, same presentation, but the intent with which I'm getting in is completely different. Now, this intent determines how well I'm communicating. We start with attitude, we are getting to the intent. And that's where one of the authors, his name is Ken Liu. He said, every act of communication is a miracle of translation. So what this means is, I might be communicating something through words, but actually my intent gets communicated even before my words. That's what we saw in the previous slide also. People catch hold of the intent. So if they see something is really incorrect with the intent, they can pick it. And that is where one of the critical aspects for us is to build a very good intent, have a very good positive attitude when we get into any communication. It can be through mails, in-person, leadership presentations, in all these aspects. So let me take a pause here. If there are any thoughts from anyone, you can feel free to share. You can even use the chat message to bring your questions, right? So now, how do you make your communication intentional, right? Now, these are some of the ways how we can do it. First and foremost, you can expressly state your intention. The reason I am having this presentation, the reason I am talking to you about this is this reason, that I want to take your inputs, I want to take your advice. You can start your presentation that way. Second, as when you're presenting, when you're talking or communicating, check if the audience also understood what you have mentioned. How much did they understand? Now, these two steps are very important also for us to build the trust with the audience, because communication is all about building the trust. Now, like what one of you said, this also shows that we are very, very honest. We are very authentic in our communication. The third thing, which is very important, each of us have our own pace of communication, but the best pace is what the audience are comfortable with. If you think you have a habit of talking fast, check with the audience if they're able to follow. If they're not able to follow, then slow it down. Sometimes what happens is when people respond to us fast among the audience, we tend to think they understood what we said, need not. So slowing down, following up, all this will help us to understand if the audience got our message correctly. And the last and the fourth important thing is always remember that people are going to take different meanings from what we are communicating. Try to also see if everyone understood it in the way and the meaning with which we wanted to communicate. That's the fourth step. So these are 4 things, and you can do 1, 2, or 3, or all the 4 also to be intentional in your communication. So we started with the positive attitude. We are now getting into the intention. These 2 again are like the critical foundation layers. Any thoughts from anyone to share, or any experience that you would like to share? Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. Just I want to reaffirm that 3 most important thing is what you have already mentioned. That is during communication to my before the audience before me. That is voice and modulation support.
Yes.
At what place I want to give stress or importance. That is voice.
Yes.
And body language and eye contact.
Yes.
Eye contact. Now, how much
absolutely
sincere I am to convey my message to you.
Yes.
How
yes.
That quantification of my seriousness. That is sincerity. That is it. Yes.
Absolutely. And I'll give an example. That's a good point what you brought in, sir. In fact, I can give an example without naming the company. In one of the companies that where I was part of the compensation team, where we had to communicate about compensation. Now, one of my colleagues in the team, my team member, what happened is he has this casual attitude and he doesn't mean it. So, see, when he's speaking to someone, he'll be very casual in his posture and all that. So he was addressing a group of banking professionals. So these are like banking subject matter experts. He was communicating what is the annual compensation hike and bonuses looking like. So whatever he communicated were the message given by the top management. So the top HR leadership said, get into a meeting like this, communicate these 4 things. Even the presentation, everything were given by the top leadership. So he didn't do anything. He just need to read out those from the slide, right? However, what happened in that meeting is, when he mentioned, we had given 8% hike as an example, right? What he meant is the organization has decided to give a 8% hike. That's what he meant. And that is all there coming from the top leadership. He's only reading it out. Because his stance was very casual, right? Some of them misunderstood him. They thought he is sharing something to them. And who is he to give them 8% hike when they are bringing business to the company? These are experts. And who is this person in HR who is deciding our hikes? And that's how bad his communication got misinterpreted. And this is where the intent, the attitude, the body language, all these travels before our communication. So, and that is where it's so important. These first 2 elements, we give utmost importance to this. So, great. Thanks, sir, for bringing that. So let's move to the third point, right? Now, this is where we are getting slowly into the storytelling framework. What the research shows is an average person can pay attention to a speaker for 10 to 18 minutes. Now, this itself is a very wide window. There are certain layers within this. Within this 10-18 minutes, they will give 10-18 minutes, provided we are able to build that connect in the first 1 or 2 minutes. If for some reason they see that our communication is lacking that intent, lacking that positivity, or they are not sure what we are trying to communicate, then they won't spend that remaining 8 or 10 minutes with us, right? And this is where the elevator pitch as a concept came in. Can I make the best use of that 1 or 2 minutes that someone is giving me? It is similar to how the websites also work. When we visit a website, we spend some 5, 6, or 7 seconds in any new website. If a certain information is catchy, it is meaningful to us, then we spend more time. The same thing happens here. Website is also a way of communication. The same thing happens here where people decide to invest the time if we are able to build that connect in the first 2 minutes. That's why the previous two sections are very important. So now if this is what is the constraint, then how can I make my communication impactful in a way that I make the best use of this 10 or 18 minutes? So there are two things here. We are talking about the impact in our communication, which is KISS and WIFM. Keep it short and simple, and what's in it for me. And talking about what's in it for me, there are two things. When I communicate something, I go with the intent that I need to make someone understand what I'm communicating. That's a no. But my communication also is going to create a certain emotion, like what Mr. KK Singh said, right? It's going to create an emotion in someone. So equally important is how I make someone feel about my communication. Do they feel good or do they feel bad? So the information alone is not sufficient. There is an emotion. I need to also take care of it. So this is where the impact gets translated. So a quick way of doing it, let's look at this cartoon, right? On the left, you have someone who is a programmer. On the right, you have someone who is a client, right? Just have a look at the picture. And how do you think that Techie on the left can make his communication both KISS and WIFM, KISS and WIFM from this example? What this means is the sentence you see on the left, we won't be able to deliver our product in time because of some issue with MySQL. I make this statement short and simple, at the same time, also cover what's in it for me for the customer who is on the right. Anything? Maybe even if you're not able to say the entire sentence, you can talk about what will you change or what will you refine in his communication on the left.
Can be delay in delivery. That is what is the purpose here.
Fantastic, fantastic. Delay in delivery has to come out. Beautiful, beautiful. You cracked it. What more can we do?
Yeah, actually, we can give a date. We can give a date. We can give a date which is not matching in time, but we can give him a date which will.
Beautiful.
This is the date by which I will solve this problem.
Superb, sir. Lovely, lovely. So we already have two things that we can improve. Anything more?
Yeah, it starts with.
He has to first communicate that he wants to deliver or he wants to deliver the product to him, and that has to come through first.
No.
Very nice. Very nice.
You should tell what it means, MySQL.
Beautiful. You cracked it completely. Lovely, lovely, sir. Very nice, very nice. I think fantastic. All those points that you said is what is given here, right? Of course, you can still shorten this. So whatever you see in red, it's what's in it for me for the customer. And KISS is what you see in purple color. Like what one of you said, MySQL, I may or may not understand as a customer. Can I simplify it? And that's where this is a software that stores customer record. And it has a certain technical stack. That's, even I would say, don't use the word snag. People may not understand it. So use there is a technical issue or some issue, something like that. And the font in red is all about the what's in it for me. It addresses both what customer needs to know. It also helps to understand customer from his emotional point of view. Like we know how important it is to deliver the product on time. So we are empathizing with the customer. However, we anticipate a 3 days delay, like what one of you said, we need to bring that delay aspect. But at the same time, we are giving them certain assurance that we'll try our best to reduce the delay as much as possible, right? This is just one example of it. So what is very critical from this is keeping the communication short and sweet, short and simple, at the same time taking care of what someone needs to know and also how someone needs to feel after knowing certain information. All these three dimensions are very important from the impact point of view. And this is something where we all have this tendency. There are certain technical terms which are very, very familiar to us because we have been working in that area. So it comes as a second nature to us use those acronyms. So when you are using those acronyms, just be careful. There could also be people in the audience who may not know this. So the objective is also to simplify our communication, and even someone who is completely unaware of the topic should be in a position to understand what we are saying. And that's the crux of the impact here. Okay, great. So we'll take questions on this towards the end. If there are any other thoughts from anyone, feel free to share. I'm so glad that you all collectively cracked this, actually. All those points that you brought in, spot on. Thanks for that. Now, let's go to this video, right? Now, have a look at the video and take a guess. What is this video all about, right? So it's a 2 minutes video. So let's go through this.
Don't ask about what are we going to do if you don't get a bonus. Get the damn $26 million. Spend your time and your effort.
That viral video of a West Michigan CEO sparking backlash nationwide this week.
And we're now learning that MillerKnoll CEO Andy Owen, who you just saw, has reportedly apologized to her employees. 13 on your side's Trevier Gonzalez continues our coverage this morning. Trevier, what is this lady saying now?
Yeah, Jay and Emily, good morning. Now, according to multiple media outlets, Owen sent out an email to employees saying she hoped to energize the team, but now realizes that it landed in a way that she did not intend. And for that, she's saying that she's sorry. Now, here's a clip of that viral part that she is apologizing for.
Don't ask about what are we going to do if you don't get a bonus. Get the damn $26 million. Spend your time and your effort thinking about the $26 million we need and not thinking about what you're going to do if we don't get a bonus. All right? Can I get some commitment for that? I would appreciate that. I had an old boss who said to me one time, you can visit Pity City, but you can't live there. So people, leave Pity City. Let's get it done.
The clip was shared on.
So there's an actual incident that happened a year back. He's a CEO of one of the companies, and the company was not in a position to give away bonus. So she came on the video to address her employees. And when she addressed, what she mentioned is, don't ask me where the bonus is. Rather, try to focus on how we can get those $26 million, which is the revenue or sales target that she's referring to, right? She's asking her people to worry more about the revenue targets that they need to achieve, so that itself creates a certain bonus pool for the employees. So this is what she intended to do. And she also thought this video could also energize the team, right? That's what was her intent was behind, right? That was her intended communication. So that is what the situation is. Let's see what happened after that.
On social media, sparking backlash, with many accusing Owen of being tone deaf. The Wall Street Journal reports Owen made nearly $5 million in the 2022 fiscal year, including a nearly $1.3 million bonus. MillerKnoll is one of the largest office furniture companies in the U.S. and is headquartered in Zeeland. In a statement to 13 on your side, a MillerKnoll spokesperson said, quote, a 90-second clip from that internal meeting loses the context of the broader discussion. Our CEO.
So this MillerKnoll is a company, and there's a statement from that company. So what it says is, it was trying to defend their CEO. Our CEO believed fiercely in the company, and we want to finish the financial year strong. That was the intent behind the communication, right? Now just look at what the CEO has got to say about her communication.
CEO believes fiercely in the company and what we can do together to finish the financial year strong. Now, but in an email to employees obtained over by Vice News, Owen did express remorse. It says in part, quote, as a leader, I try to always pick the right words and tone to inspire and motivate this incredible team. I want to be transparent and empathetic, and as I continue to reflect on this instance, I feel terrible that my rallying cry seemed insensitive. What I had hoped would energize the team to meet a challenge we've met many times before landed in a way that I did not intend, and for that, I am sorry. Miller.
Okay, so this is the incident here. So what do you think about this? Any thoughts?
Sir, actually what were first is there is no actually no tone of apology. Apology is for, but there is no apology here, sir.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yes.
the way you are express your apology, it is not. She was like leadership style, and she wants something from the from his team, but it is not actually.
Yes.
Tone should be changed.
Didn't connect well. Yes. Yes. And like what you say, sir, if someone is to see this video for the first time, more than energizing, you're going to feel a bit angry, right? Especially if we are someone who is not getting the bonus, right? And we are now left to hear this communication. Though she intended it differently, this landed differently, right? So thanks for sharing that. So this goes back to the fourth element in the communication, which is the medium, right? So what do you think is wrong with the medium here? How is medium contributing to the communication or not contributing to the communication? Any thoughts? Medium here is the video that she used.
Was direct communication not possible?
Yeah, that was in fact, this was a town hall meeting she had for 90 minutes. And this video is a town hall meeting. Actually, she was addressing employees.
Okay.
So, which means they are spread across different locations. So, in-person meeting was not possible there, I suppose. But she used a video for the town hall. So, one of the things in the medium is sorry.
What are we going to do?
Sorry. Yeah. Yes. Yes, please go
I
ahead.
was only trying to say that, in my view, had she resorted to written communication, it would have removed the risks involved with non-verbal communication.
Absolutely, Sanjay sir. In fact, this is where as leaders, this is so important for us to choose the right medium to communicate. A medium like this, the downside is people can record your video, or this video could be shared through social media easily. Or let's say the company has their own intranet. It is available in the intranet as a recorded video. That is still available, right? Now, what happened after this video in the last 1 year is, this video is now still lying in different online platforms. That's the kind of a damage that this company has to go through because of this one communication. So that is where, as much as the attitude, the intent, and whatever we spoke before, equally important is the medium that we choose for our communication. And some of the factors that can help us to choose the right medium. One, start with what your audience would prefer or would like to have. The second is, how much information do you plan to give? If you're giving too much information, or if you want to gather too much information, then some of these video meetings and all that may not help. An in-person meeting would be advisable there. Third point is the most critical thing where this video went wrong. How sensitive is the information? Now, this is a very, very sensitive information for which an in-person discussion or a meeting is much more advisable there. And fourth thing, how do you now collect the feedback? Assuming there's a very, very strong message, you also want to collect some feedback, how people are feeling about the message. Again, an online or a video medium may not help us much there. So, is it a formal communication? Then in those cases, like what Sanjay sir said, you can use mails or some other forms of communication. And you can also have a check done through the internal communication team. So instead of the communication team coming towards the end, like what we saw, they could have been used upfront. In that way, you make that communication a lot more sensitive, a lot more formal. And is there any materials you would like to share? And the last thing is cost. But considering the reputational risk, sometimes you don't worry about the cost. So these are some 5 or 6 factors to decide on what could be the right medium for my communication, which again creates an impact or doesn't create an impact. So this is especially important for us as senior leaders. Yes, sir, please go ahead.
What I want to add to this, when I saw her speaking, as we all agreed, the postures and the tone were not in sync with what she wanted to communicate. See, as an officer, and
Absolutely,
as a person, as
Yeah.
a communicator, you should know how good your tonality is, how good your language is,
Yes.
how good your emotional
Yes.
control is, how good you look
Yes.
when you want to show your intent. See, these are the things comes over the
Absolutely.
years. Over the years, you know,
Yes.
in which language. In fact, the language also it matters a lot to the audience, right?
Yes.
Something
Yes.
like
Yes.
native to this, even English also having a lot of flavors. If you are
Yes.
native to
Yes.
that part, probably people will connect and understand. That means it's she is or he is communicating. See, these are the
Yes.
it's not the material only which is being transmitted.
Yes.
See, that too,
Yes.
when unpleasant thing is to be communicated, you should weigh the words, you should weigh your emotions, everything, you know.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
many of the people, they fail in that, and you can learn this from the politicians. In fact, not as an industrialist or as a businessman, you observe politicians, they float so good. So maybe we have to draw certain things from them also in a communication part.
We need to learn. We need to learn from them also. Absolutely.
That's it.
Yes. Yes, sir.
This is my takeaway.
Yes. In fact, no, that's a fantastic point. In fact, one thing that happened here is what happened is she acknowledged this. She was quite normal. But suddenly when people started asking questions, or when people started asking questions on bonus, her emotions went high. And that is again very important, how we take up some questions in a presentation and not feel very emotional about it. Because once we share something, say something out, we can't take it back. So thanks for
So
bringing
may
that.
I add one thing here?
Yes, please.
She came across as, first of all, very hysterical, not in control. And so the damage is not only for the present communication, but it challenges her as a leader also. So
Absolutely.
that is something which I think one has to be very cautious about, because so many people will be making an impression, and maybe all your good work goes down the drain with one less than perfect communication.
Absolutely. Spot on, madam. What you call irreparable damage, right? So that is where some of these medium, it can create such massive damage, right? If the same thing has happened in in-person meeting, probably people would have would only be talking about this. Now people are able to see what she did. It's like a replay happening again and again and again, which is where the medium as a point is so critical in a communication. So thanks for your points. Let's move on. So you're now getting to the storytelling. So with those 4 things that we saw, which is attitude, intent, and then now we are also talking about the medium here. Let's talk about the storytelling, right? Now, one of the aspects of storytelling is all of these storytelling frameworks, there is a commonality. Many of these frameworks were brought in by companies like Disney, Walt Disney, Pixar. These are the companies that do a lot of childhood or children movies, cartoons, and all that, right? So what they found out in storytelling is, as much as stories captivate kids, initially they thought stories only captivate kids. But what they found out is, story is such a common thing that can appeal to any generation. It not only the kids, and it can even appeal to the adults. Those were the roots of the storytelling framework. So there is a Pixar storytelling, there is a Walt Disney storytelling framework, there is a Neil storytelling framework, many frameworks. I have taken 2 frameworks, which I use a lot in my communication with the clients. So that's why I chose these models. It's very simple, it's very effective, right? So it's called the SCQA model. What it means is, whenever we speak, if you need to give an elevator pitch, let's say one of your leaders is asking you to describe about your project, and you have only, let's say, 60 seconds to do that, then this model can help you. Or let's say you're getting to a presentation to your leaders, and your presentation is for 30-45 minutes. And if you want to talk about in a very crisp way, in a very impactful way, again, this framework would help. So what we are doing here is we are starting with a situation. let's take our own presentation here. If you recollect, we started with a video about strategy. So what is the situation here? The situation is communication is important, and that is not only for us, but even for organizations to deliver strategy. That's the situation that we spoke about. Now, what is the complication that became? We spoke about, while communication is important, verbal is only 7% and 93% is non-verbal. That's a complication. So then what's the question then? Given if this is what it is, how do we now take care of the 93% of the non-verbal communication? That's where we spoke about attitude, we spoke about intent, we spoke about medium. And all that we are discussing now is the answer. So in fact, this entire presentation is based on the SCQA model, if you look at it. And you can also use this similar way in your presentation, right, to talk about projects. And this is such a critical thing when you get into some consulting assignments also. This also follows the consulting process. So the consulting process typically starts with us identifying what problem we want to solve. That's where the situation complication comes in. Then we ask a lot of probing questions to the stakeholder. Then we try to get an answer, right? And in all these things, what we do is we try to keep it MISI, which is mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. So what it means is mutually all the 4 things, SCQA, needs to be so exhaustive to cover a topic like communication, but at the same time, it should be exclusive, that you should not have redundancies or duplication within that. If you have duplication, then again, it does not create an impact in your communication. So this is an example of the SCQA model. There is one more example I can talk about. Let's say Disney is looking to build up a new park. How can you use this for a situation like this? A situation is Disney is looking to grow revenue with a new park. Complication, they need to decide where to open the new park. Question, where should Disney open its theme park? And the answer is Disney should open its next park in so-and-so location. So these 4 statements for you to say to a leader will not take more than 30 seconds. So, and this you can try in your presentation, in your elevator pitch, wherever it is. Requires some practice, but once you get it, it's very, very impactful. Any thoughts, any questions from anyone on this? Is this helping you to understand how to use this? Maybe I can also share one more tip here. If you look at any of the movies, Bollywood movies, or any movies, right? Or any news channels, they try to sensationalize it. Before even we start about the news, they try to tell what the situation is, what is the complication there. Then they ask so many questions, right? The same thing. So what they found out is our human brains are more addicted to solve problems. So we get excited with problem solving, right? That's how our brains are designed. So before even we start listening, we try to problem solve in many of the situations. So the same thing is something we are leveraging here. When you talk about a situation or a complication, it makes the audience more attentive towards us because we are talking to their brain's design, and that's how we are all designed. So now, when you talk about the question and answer, they are much more interested to listen to you because you've already opened up what the situation and the complication is. So those are some of the principles on which the storytelling framework is based on.
I can correlate this with a Gandhi movie.
Okay, sir.
When you just started the movie, you see that huge crowd follows the Gandhi's procession and all. So that tells that to tell that somebody is been having a lot of followers. Now I'll tell you who the guy is. So that way, when you communicate, you show such a data which is very catchy to the audience, so that people will connect with the data and listen what you want to say. If you don't, if you start with a flat note, people will look more to their maybe nowadays your what do you call it, reels or something like that, WhatsApp rather than your tonality, So maybe this is
absolutely, sir. Yes, no, you got it so well. In fact, that is also one reason what we saw. An audience gives us 10 to 8 minutes of time, but within the 10 minutes, the first 1 or 2 minutes is important. So this model actually makes them to listen to us for more than a minute or two. And fantastic. And there is one more thing to this, right? And this is where the power comes in. There is something called as a pyramid model, which you can use along with this. So to give an example, right? Many times when we listen to some people, right? You hear them talking a lot, let's say, which is fine, right? That's their personality. But sometimes they tend to miss what is that one critical point or two critical point that you want people to carry with them based on what you're communicating, right? And that is where this pyramid model comes in. So what a pyramid model does is it tries to identify the critical idea behind your presentation. What is that governing thought it is called? It's called a governing thought. What is that governing thought that binds all the other thoughts together? Now use that as an anchor for your presentation. And which means that is something that you can use as a main idea. And then you provide supporting details. So do not bring the main idea later, but rather bring it up upfront. So that is an example of pyramid model. So how we use that in the Disney example is, instead of saying Disney needs this, has this complication, all that, what we need to do here is get to the answer. Disney should open a theme park in Rio, right? That is one way of using the pyramid model. But again, the problem is when you already give an answer, when you're speaking to someone, before giving the context, you might lose them. That's why pyramid model in isolation is not very powerful, right? But the crux is, can I identify that one or two critical governing thoughts are the main idea in my communication? And now use this along with the SCQA model. And that's where the power is. So for the same example, what I'll do, if you could see the first row, FPQA is what we have in the previous slide. And based on that, now I say for the answer, Disney should open a theme park in Rio. This is the main idea of my presentation. And then for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to follow this main idea. I'm only going to talk about why Disney should open a theme park in Rio. I'm not going to get into any of the details, but just focus on this point. That is how I use SCQA and pyramid model together. And the only thing I will add there is, like what we saw in the previous slides, check with the audience what they would like to hear from you, what they would like to hear from you more. That is also something to validate. If they are okay with you using this or know details about why Disney should open a theme park in Rio, follow that. So before even you break from the second box to the other boxes, have one validation with the audience. That's a very powerful way. And then get into the future, the additional details. In that way, you don't lose the audience. So, any thoughts from anyone? Any clarifications on these models? Okay. See, a lot of this comes with practice. So just to summarize whatever we saw, we are coming towards the end of the session almost. You can use this acronym to help you remember whatever we spoke, like All India Institute of Medical Sciences. I just used an acronym here. See, A stands for attitude. No pity part, maintaining a positive attitude, it empowers us. Intent is your North Star. And we also gave some suggestions how you can use your intent in your communication. And use KIFS and WIFM for the impact. Medium is so critical to choose, especially for us as senior leaders. And the last thing is about the storytelling for articulation. And use both SCQA and pyramid. It's very powerful. So this is where we are. Happy to take any other questions from the group.
Thank you, sir. So we are open for questions and interaction with the group directly, sir. You can share your experiences also. Anyone from the group, sir, if you want to share, sir, or if you want to ask any queries, sir, please. This is the right moment to ask directly.
So I have a question or two observations, maybe.
Sure, madam.
The first thing is that in any impactful, whatever you do for impactful communication, but there may be certain biases operating. So how do you take care of that? And the second point is that while you are communicating, you may have to change your strategy mid-term also, depending on the feedback or how the audience is going along with you or not.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic question, madam. Maybe again, bias is a very big topic. I'll try to keep my response very short. One of the things that I can talk about here is something called vulnerability. Vulnerability is a leadership competency. It's a very, very critical leadership competency. Let me say how you can use this here. One thing with bias is it's unconscious, right? We can't eliminate bias, we can manage bias. So one way how we do that is acknowledge to the audience. If you think you are going to have a certain bias in the presentation, right? If I'm a presenter, I can say, yes, I know that I may be biased, but I do not know. If you see there is any bias in what I'm communicating, please let me know. So what I'm now doing is I'm doing two things. Instead of me identifying bias, I'm giving that accountability on the audience to help me identify the bias. And the second thing is I am also making myself vulnerable. When I make myself vulnerable, which means the audience now knows I am more open to take feedback, it builds that connect for me with the audience. The trust builds with the audience. This is a very effective way to manage bias. The same thing you can also do for your second question, where in between, if you want to change a communication or you need to decide on a different way to communicate, give the accountability to the participant. It can be your team member, it can be a group of people. Ask them, maybe you have these 7 slides that you have brought in for the presentation. If they think they need any other information, feel free to bring it in. Though we may not have some slides, we can still have a discussion. Again, I can use vulnerability. Even if certain topics are something I'm not totally aware, we can still have a discussion or identify from whom we can get that information. And you can use this for your presentation, your training, your leadership meetings. So vulnerability is one thing that can help you in both the situations. Does that answer your question, madam?
Yes, yes. Vulnerability is a very interesting perspective here. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay. Should I add it, sir? Should I add it?
Yes, sir. Please. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
What madam said is normally when we go for a discussion or maybe communication exercise like communicating your targets, everything. So you go with your own, with your own experience and with your own data, right? So when you open to your team, the team is also equally competent to give you back some data points, maybe some feedback, which will maybe it will turn your entire understanding 180 degrees. It may happen.
Absolutely. It might happen.
So that is where your openness to the discussion makes you, critical. If you stuck with
absolutely.
If you stuck with your own identity, if you stuck with your own position, if you stuck with your own understanding of the situation, so you will not be open to the discussion. When it's not open, then people will take first time they'll try to communicate this.
Yes.
So next time onwards, they'll slowly withdraw. So the team will withdraw in course of time. So ultimately, it will be one-sided, unsided, and your communication will fail miserably. That's what.
Absolutely. In fact, I can add this research there. In fact, innovation is something that I hope for SAIL is also very critical, right? PricewaterhouseCoopers did a global survey on what makes organizations innovative, what builds their innovation. Behind the innovation is this point that we are discussing. What they found out is innovation doesn't start with innovative mindset or innovation. They said the ability of the managers to take pushback from their teams. Let's say I go with a best plan, thinking that's the best plan to my team. My team says no, they don't agree to it. At that moment, how is that manager responding or reacting to that pushback from the team determines, one, if the team is even willing to make some improvements. Because if I, as a manager, I say, no, we are not here to take that pushback. This is the best plan. We need to go ahead. Then as a team, what I'm telling to them is, I will not give you opportunities to talk about certain issues or weaknesses with me. If they're not going to talk about those issues or weaknesses, which also means I'm not going to give them opportunities to fail. If I'm not going to give them opportunities to fail, they're not going to learn. If they're not going to learn, they're not going to improve the process or whatever it is. So only if they start improving the process, innovation comes finally. Because innovation is after some 9 failed attempts, let's say. If I'm not even allowing them a chance to speak their mind out, to give their disagreements, there is no way I'm encouraging improvement or innovation. So that is where some of these things, the pushback is so critical to encourage in our teams and also with our managers.
And especially when when your team is having a youngsters. See, they don't have courage to, when they don't have a courage to speak to you with a raised voice, maybe. So even their murmurs also will help you. Even the murmuring also helps you.
Absolutely.
I got a solution.
Absolutely.
Yes. I experienced
beautiful,
both.
Beautiful, sir. Thanks.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, madam. Thank you, sir. Yes, madam.
Sir, you referred to this while talking about storytelling, you referred to Pixel and Walt Disney. So what was the reference point actually?
Yeah. Okay, so like the SCQA that we have, right? A Pixar also has a framework for storytelling. Like it starts something like this, right? What is the environment or something like that? What is the situation in that environment? So they give similar to these 4 steps. Similarly, Walt Disney also has a framework, like 4 or 5 steps. Similarly, meal framework that I said also has some 5 steps. Like SCQA, this has 5 alphabets like that. See, for example, meal framework, if I recollect what it means is, you start with an appetizer, then you get to the main course, then you have a dessert. Similarly, your communication needs to flow like this. So that's what these frameworks talk about.
Are they apps? What is it exactly? I just couldn't
it's only a framework, ma'am. It's only a framework, much like SCQA. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I also see one more question.
Yes,
what is the right medium of what is the right medium of communication? See, there is nothing to say that one medium is the best mode of communication. The context and what you want to communicate matters here. Let's say if you're going to talk about a certain topic which is very critical to the organization, we are going to do it for the first time. Then starting with the email message may not be the right medium, right? Then in that case, I need to have town halls, in-person town halls, virtual town halls, and all that. That would be the right medium. Whereas after I have done this initial communication through town halls, then I want to give people updates, how I am progressing against that, whatever I told. Then an email communication medium is effective, right? Similarly, in certain cases, especially if you want to record some meeting, because let's say we are doing a project for 2 years, right? And where it is difficult for us to keep track of the discussion points or decision points, and I want to record that meeting. Then a virtual meeting or a video meeting as a medium is very impactful, right? So depending on the context and what we want to communicate, the relevance of the medium would change. I hope that helps your question.
I have a question in mind.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
This is about impact, where you have KISS and WIFM.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So I'm talking about WIFM. What's in it?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So if I'm addressing an audience, I have to tell them at some point of time what's in it for them. That's the idea. But very often I have found that the audience is very interested in what's in it for me.
Yes.
Have you encountered this? And if you have, how do you approach this situation?
Okay, great. Let me try to explain this with an example. Let's say I'm having a performance conversation with my team member. It's a one-on-one conversation, right? Now let's say I have my own agenda. My agenda as a manager is I want to communicate the rating, right? I want to give the rationale behind the rating or a justification behind the rating, let's say. Now this could be my intent. So what I will do at the beginning of the conversation is just to ensure that I don't go with only what I think is needed in the conversation. I will ask that individual. I know it's a quarterly catch-up or a yearly catch-up. I'm here to communicate about how the year went, or we are here to discuss about the year went and all that. But before I get started, do you have any specific expectations out of this meeting? Anything that you would like to talk in detail, or any specific aspects that you'd like us to cover, so we can plan this meeting accordingly? So this is the only thing I'm doing here, let's say. Now, what this does is it gives a certain intent to that individual. Now, I don't have a set narrative. I'm not here with an agenda. I'm also willing to look at their perspectives and have a discussion. And when I give them a chance and they also open up and they share something, I might already have a message to communicate. Now I can also look at reviewing this message in the context of what someone has said. So that is where this is so powerful, the what's in it for me. And that is where the communication becomes impactful. I'm also able to make them understand what they want to know. I'm also able to make them feel good about the conversation. Is that helping your question, sir?
Yeah, somewhat. Yes, it does.
Okay.
So I think so. We could go, considering the paucity of the time, sir. The questions are flowing, but because of the time, may I request to move ahead, sir? And
sure.
I request Sanjay sir, to please extend the vote of thanks and provide the summary of the proceedings, sir, if you can, sir, please, sir.
Thank you, Rajesh, and thank you, Pattabhiraman Saab, for a wonderful session. And I think we are deliberately leading people with a meal where their hunger is still not satiated. And I think that is the essence of a good meal. They should not feel satiated. They should feel that there is something left. So I think we picked up a lot of interesting insights in this 1 hour interaction on communication. And we will have a different look at AIMS now when we are looking at an acronym. It is not about diseases, it's about how well do you communicate with a very clear, understanding of how attitude determines what vibes people get, how your intent is very important. I'd like to take a small diversion here. I remember once Captain Raman talking about the communication in the army. He says all plans will crash at the first start of the battle. So it's important for the soldier to know the intent of the platoon commander. Afterwards, who will take charge when you don't really know, because the plans will not go. The intent has to be remembered. So that intent is very important. And how do you really, develop the impact with KISS and WIFM? What I really liked, and I think I'd like the audience here to note about how you welded both of them together in terms of saying, no, don't just remember KISS as one acronym and WIFM as another acronym. It's about doing both. One is about clarity of the communication, the other is about the connect. You need both clarity and connect. So brevity and connect both are required in communication. That was a very interesting insight for us to keep in mind. You talked about the power of the medium, and medium is a force multiplier. So it can also multiply messes. So we have to appreciate that, where the risk is high, be careful about, what medium you use, because as you said, it's a force multiplier, especially, and I think these were some things that would be relevant to everybody. But what was important about our interaction was the kind of issues that our audience also raised, and the insights we got in terms of our communication determining our image, our acceptability. So it's not just about passing on information or getting something done. It's also about, putting yourself in a particular role vis-a-vis your team. So Vijay Madam mentioned about that, meltdown that Herman Miller lady had. It's not just about that message going wrong. It's also about her leadership story going wrong. The whole edifice of her leadership has gone wrong. That was something very, very interesting. And again, we had this discussion about the power of communication to develop a connect based on authenticity. Vijay ma'am again mentioned about authenticity, and she asked about biases. So that is a very interesting take for us as leaders, that when you are willing to acknowledge biases and shift the onus of identifying the bias on the audience, you are actually bringing in a connect. That's one. The second is you are bringing in credibility and trust And if that connect and trust is there, I'm sure the communication will go through much more effectively without any, layers of interferences and things like that. So that was very interesting. And the other interesting insight that I picked up over and above what we got from the interaction was about the role of how we communicate in the kind of culture that we develop in our organization. If we want innovation, then we need to have psychological safety. And if we need to have psychological safety, then our communication needs to create a space for pushback, create a space for people to say that there is an opportunity for change. And we talked about adapting on the fly. I think if we are open, not just in terms of taking questions, but open in terms of getting our assumptions checked. And if that is coming through in the communication, people understand that it's happening both ways. I mean, for communication happening both ways should be felt both ways. Those were very interesting insights that we picked up. A lot of tools and techniques we learned. We talked about the Disney's model. We talked about the SCQA framework. We talked about the and I'm sure those forums are good anchors for us to figure out. But again, I'd like to share with the house, we have given you a taste of the meal. We have given you actually a starter. We have not really given you the complete meal. We will be following up on a lot of other things to give you the meal. But what is important is savor the flavor, savor the new perspectives that you're getting. And once again, I'd like to thank Pattabhi Raman Saab for sharing his time. And I'd actually like to thank KK Singh Saab, our Director Personnel, for, again, his intent in terms of saying, when we are talking about learning and development, now we are HR L&D. The intent is we want to make SAIL a learning organization. So let's get started with learning. Let's get started with building a learning culture. Let's get started with building a thirst for learning. And what we are trying to do through Antardrishti is build that thirst for learning. So thank you all for participating in it. And thank you all for sharing it. Thank you, Pattabhi Raman Saab.
Sanjay, I wanted to tell something.
Sir, please. Yes, sir.
I was just going through everything and I was thinking, मैं जब भी ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम लेता था तो कल से क्या करना है, means what is to be done after this.
Right, sir.
So you cannot plan the things. It's not like you can plan your communication and there is this trick, that trick, and you can use that. If you really want to be a good communicator, you have to do nothing. You have to just be authentic. Okay. And it is not going to happen in a day with certain tips and this thing. Just be authentic. Just be vulnerable. What he has told, be vulnerable. If something is to be told to somebody, just call him and tell him what you feel. And that will give you, and you keep on guessing, and he's also guessing whether my boss is happy or not happy. Yes. And what is this? Just call him and tell him what you feel. If you start practicing that, so that is something to be done from tomorrow. Right. And everything will be all right. No need to remember any kiss, ask, this, that, nothing to be done. Just try to be authentic.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We are just sharing thought processes, sir. बाकी तो लोग जो करेंगे वही करेंगे. They have to think through and then
याद करने लगे कि सर ने क्या बताया था, AI.
Yeah.
जरूरत नहीं है. कल से आप authentic हो जाओ.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, KK Singh, sir. And thank you, sir, for again reminding that we as an organization, we as an individual need to be authentic, sir, for our actions and in our words also. Thank you, sir. We also thank Pattabhi Raman sir for your beautiful insights, and we really love the inputs. And it's as sir mentioned, that is again food for thought and just a starter. And we look forward for more interactions. For our participants, I personally thank all of you for taking time from your busy schedule. And Sanjay sir mentioned that this is just a stepping stone. and we will come back to you with more deeper physical engagement, where we delve into this kind of subjects with much more practical implications and initiatives. So I thank you, all of you, sir.
Thank you, Pattabhi. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks,
Thank you, sir.
thanks, KK Singh.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Close it, yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.